Hello, welcome. I originally recorded this as like a super comprehensive tutorial, like installation and like how the replay mod works and that sort of stuff. But it kind of dawned on me that I don't really need to cover that. So you might find that it jumps around a lot, but just know in between those parts was stuff that is probably covered by a different, better tutorial. So this is going to be more just about the process and some of the more specifics to these videos. So yeah, here we go. So you might want to start by thinking about how much time you want to spend on each clip. You probably just want to spend as little time as possible on each clip without sacrificing quality. And so it might seem like the biggest thing we can do is optimize how quickly we can make one clip. I mean, if you're able to cut out 1 minute per clip, that's like an hour every 60 clips. And yeah, that helps a lot, but really the thought process here is to see how much we can batch together. It takes time to open up a new Minecraft world or to switch your brain over to come up with clips mode. So the process gets split into phases. You tackle one part of the process for every single clip at once. It seems like it's slower, you feel like you're wasting time, but having a good production plan is someone's full-time job on a Hollywood movie. I have multiple monitors here. It's just a lot easier to keep everything separated and always pulled up and ready. But if you don't have them, you can just press Alt-Tab to jump between windows or just put stuff on a laptop. But the way I do it is I watch along with the recording session. And if a shot comes up in the script that I can just grab right away, I just grab it right away from here. The key here is that if it happens in the replay, you don't have to remake it because you can just grab it in the replay. Now, for all of the shots that you can't just grab in the replay, you'll need to remake them. Usually that's by like acting it back out or like having just some sort of other element like a schematic or something on the ground, something like that. And the way that I do that is as I am watching along, if something comes up that I can't just grab in the replay, I will put it into a different list. You can do this with Excel. You can do this with like Monday. I use Notion for a couple reasons. The main thing that matters is that you have the shot name and like the scene and the number of it, as well as how you're going to capture it and any extra notes. So in our case, we have like whatever skin we want to use, any extra commands I want to have, stuff like that. And then I'll have like a checkbox I can use to check it off and say I've captured it. The other thing that Notion lets you do is it lets you set up these functions that like, for example, here I have it set up so that I have it taking the shot number, the scene number, and the line. And what that lets me do is it just lets me copy and paste that directly into the replay mod renderer once we get to that part later. So after I've captured everything I can get from here and I've written down all of the stuff I'll need to remake, I take all of the remaining shots that I couldn't get inside of the recording session's replay file and I sort them into locations. You can do these in an empty world, but it's just more visually interesting to put them into some sort of set. So then I go down the list, location by location, and act out or otherwise obtain the replay file I'll need. And I just go through that file and capture the shots as I did them in the replay. So obviously, as you're going through that list, you're going to have to think, this is kind of the biggest part of these replays. You're showing things visually. And so the easiest way to do that is make the subject of the shot the subject of the sentence being said out loud. Again, I'll get into that later, some other visual shortcuts, some tools you can use later. And that's it for the replay stuff. It is basically just those three phases. Each one takes a pretty good chunk of time, but even though they take big chunks of time, each individual clip is really, really quick. The reason I have Premiere open is that you can have multiple tracks of audio and you can see those audio waveforms. So for example, here, I know that this is going to be a line being said. You can see this part right here. And I know it's going to start and end there. And there's no lines, blah, 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 blah. This just lets you skip ahead to the next line much easier and save watching through at regular speed. So I will be doing a lot of clicking forward. The replay mod takes some time to render. As the clips are rendering, you can take that time to organize your shot list and make sure everything's set, get more details in there as you need, save a little time that way by jumping kind of back and forth. The most important thing to note is that the beginning of a YouTube video is the most important for viewer retention. So the first like 1 minute should be a big focus for your largest shots. One thing to note is that sometimes certain mods just don't work with the replay mod, and you just have to get creative on how to get around it. Easiest way I have found to do it is just to record with OBS. You can press F1 in Minecraft to hide the UI, like this. You can press F9 to smooth out your camera. I don't have to do it very often, but you can press F9 to smooth out your camera, and you can use the scroll wheel to adjust how fast your camera moves. So this is like, whoops, this is fastest, and then you can scroll down all the way down to like really slow, and you can just really get whatever shots you need to get as you're going through it, right? That sort of thing. So if all else fails, if something's not showing up in the replay, or if it's crashing or whatever, that's at least something you can do. What that means is at the beginning of the replays, it's only fast forwarding through 3 minutes. But by the end of the replays, it is fast forwarding through something like 50 minutes of time. Most of the time, that is no problem. Most of the time, it's just people moving around, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes there is big world-changing events that happen during your replay. Something explodes, a lot of blocks get pasted. Something like that happens, and it starts to really lag. Something you need to do to fix that, you can go to the replay viewer. You can click on the replay in question, press edit. Let's say that all of those blocks get pasted or blown up at 20 minutes. I want to go after all of those blocks have finished settling, let's say like 21, 25, and insert a split. When you hit apply, what that's going to do is it's going to split it into 2 different replay files. One before all of those explosions happened, and one after. Because it is after, the game isn't having to do all of those block updates over and over again, and you save yourself a ton of time. This doesn't always come up, but it comes up sometimes, and it comes up often enough where you might find yourself needing to do that. Here's another little tip. Sometimes, let's say we want to get a shot of this blue team here, and we have somebody flying here, and we have somebody on the ground here, and we want to get them out of the shot. We just want blue team. What you can do is you can hit B. This shows every single player currently being shown. So who are the 2 players here? I've got this one and this one. What I'll do is I'll press the X buttons on them to make them disappear. And then I can clear all my keyframes. You're going to get used to doing this after every single render. I'm going to take my playhead after every single clip, move it to the front. I'm going to set IO to set the time in and time out. I'm going to move the camera as I go. Whoops. And do again. So you notice there we have the particles fly in front of us. That's a clear sign of there being a player there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Options, Video Settings. I'm going to turn the particles off to minimal. Sometimes it gets rid of particles, sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of unpredictable as to what particles it gets rid of, but at the very least, it gets rid of those like player running particles. And you can see first 30 frames are pretty much unusable there, but there we go. We have a shot of the blue team. Perfect. So let's say you have like a more complex move. So let's just go ahead and render it and see what happens here. So flying down, and then we crash through the ground and start seeing through the world. So that is an element of the interpolation. So essentially what the game is trying to do is it's trying to take you through a smooth path through each of your keyframes you have set up. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to avoid any sharp angles. Because we got so close to the ground, what's happening, you can see with this red line here, and perhaps the red on red was not a perfect choice, but you can see that this red line here shows the path that the camera is going to take. And you can see it takes a beeline directly into the ground. So one of the ways to fix this, sometimes what you can do is you can go to your replay mod settings. You can change the default interpolator, which is just kind of fancy talk. You can change it to cubic spline, which is going to change a couple of the things here. I find 9 times out of 10 Catmull is great, but you just kind of gone too close to the ground. Something to keep in mind is that your camera kind of has momentum. So as it's moving, it's going to kind of keep moving in the direction that it goes. So what I want to do here is I want to edit this keyframe here. So something you can do is you can click on each keyframe to see which one is the problem one. This is helpful if you have a lot of keyframes. Once you find the one that's the problem one, it's usually one right before you go through the ground or whatever. You're going to right click on it. And then what you can do is delete that keyframe, move up a little bit, and And let's say we're going to move, because we have this momentum, we're coming from up here, we're going up to there. I'm going to move up and over here a little bit. I'm going to press I to just do a position keyframe and put it in here. So then you can see now our path is much better and we can render that shot out. No problem. So we now move on to getting all of the shots that we're remaking. So you can see here they are separated into their locations. So just as I was going through, I was filling in this set column. So I have these different sets here. We have this underground set because there's a lot of like underground stuff and digging and that sort of thing. And then we have a lot of talk of this war, going to war. So I have a set for that. And I'll show you what that looks like here as well. You'll start to kind of collect these different worlds. I have a bunch of them. When you're looking for sets, you want stuff that's, you know, visually interesting at the very least. So Planet Minecraft is a great place for that. You can see here, there's just some cool environments and places and stuff. Mario. Wow. The other place you can go to for, if you have, for example, one of the things in here is like a big TNT cannon. The other place you can go to that Minecraft schematics, and you can just type in, you have to make an account, and you have to check to make sure. So not everything on here is free. It's kind of annoying when you go to the download and you click on the download button, it takes you to their website instead. But they've got a search functionality. You can go find a cannon here. Press search. You can see, oh, there we go. There's some TNT cannons. Perfect. Oh, look at that. There you go. Mega cannon. That'll do. So yeah, you'll start to get this collection of places you can use over and over again. For example, anytime there's talk about a server or the server, something like that, I have this like server room here I've just kind of built. And you can see there's like a computer desk I can use. There's an apple on it. But yeah, like Minecraft is a really old game at this point with all these different mechanics for adjusting things in game that are really just built to help you customize things. And that helps you to really quickly visually communicate stuff, which is convenient for our purposes here. Something you might end up wanting to do is doing some custom paintings. You can actually go to a website and fill in the custom paintings with stuff. So let's say you wanted one of these to be a computer screen. You just click here, change image, or I guess upload image, and then it'll have you crop it, and you go ahead and download the pack, name it, and then there you go. And you can just get the paintings in the game like that. So that's one way you can do that. Another thing you might want to do is do a custom skin. So I've done like a server owner before, just for the example in this one. So here we go. We'll get like a nerd. Go to the nerd Minecraft skins and find one. And there you go. That looks like a bona fide server owner. You can just download the skin by pressing that button and slapping it on. Or for example, these blocks here. These are a retextured blue glazed terracotta. There are a number of different ways you can do that, but this is the one I used. It's really slow and really clunky, but you can go through here to blocks. You can go to glazed terracotta. You can just change the texture of the glazed terracotta here. I also have here, you can see I've got a head to be the earth. So that you just can go to like this website works. There's a couple other websites for heads specifically, or maybe use this one because it's more visually interesting. You can down here to head command to get the head, the player head, pop that into a command block. But yeah, you can also get like numbers with banners. These banners here, you can like dye them and stuff like that in game. And so you can do commands that just give you those banners already built. So let's go to like, you can see there you have all of the different number banners as well. You can get each one individually, so on and so forth. But then you can go here and just see like, oh, there's some other things I can get. So I can get arrows, or I can get chess pieces if you want to do chess pieces, those sorts of things. You know, Minecraft is a very flexible thing, but you also have to kind of think about how much time you want to spend on each clip, for example. Usually I find that it's super simple enough for just a handful of shots to grab like letters or, you know, numbers and those sorts of things, just to help visually tell something. Because, yeah, the core of what we're trying to do here is to make the subject of the shot the subject of the sentence being said out loud in the video script. And so sometimes the easiest way to do that is to do some of these more custom things. But I find a lot of things here you can get pretty easily with just kind of vanilla items. It's like, for example, if I give myself a barrier, this is like a no symbol. Yeah, I just kind of go through for all of these clips. You know, I find if there's any elements I need, I grab those elements from a schematics website, or I make them using the textures and stuff like that. And then what I do is I will sort by those sets. So you can see here, I have these sets like that, and then I just go down the list one at a time through the sets and capture everything I need. And most of the time you can capture those with just like an item on the ground or like acting it out yourself. I usually recommend that. But if you need to, you can use the NPC mod. You can see I have some characters standing here. This is a single player world. I can still open it to LAN here. If I go /NPC create and then type in a username, it creates an NPC. You can see there's no skin right now. Sometimes you have to leave the game and come back to the game in order to load in the skin. And honestly, I would recommend doing that anyways, because sometimes it loads the skin for you, but it doesn't load the skin for replay mod. So just do that. This is a mod called Taterzens. So there's a bunch of different commands you can use here. That's what I have the Stream Deck for. So I have buttons to select, I have buttons to deselect, I have buttons to edit the equipment. So that way I can have them holding like a book. Again, you can also put heads on, and when you create an NPC, it'll be selected, so you'll have to deselect it so you can get rid of that outline. Depending on what version of the mod you're in as well, the sounds are kind of weird, and sometimes they'll crash the game. But yeah, most of the time you can capture anything with an actor on your own just by like holding it or, you know, hitting with a sword at something or whatever. But sometimes you do need the NPC mod to fill stuff out. You can animate with the NPC mod. You do that by setting a node on the ground on 2 spots and tell it to animate between it. You can look up the documentation for that. I find most of the time I can just do it without it. If you need to have a different skin on, you can just change that as you're going through the recording. So you don't need to hop out of the world and exit the game and get the new skin on and then start a new recording. You just do it all in one recording. At least for now. You might have to check on whatever version you're in, because that might change. So what I usually like to do is I like to look at my list of shots I need to get. So here we have for location, this is server is the thing. We have a shulker, and a book. I usually just like to get everything prepared before I start the recording so that I can just do it in one go. So we have the book here already. Currently on our shot list, we have for server, we have someone picking up shoulder going into spectator, which is kind of simulating them getting kicked off the server. Shulker and book. Inside the dropper is a banned book. Dropper. We have the book. That'll be perfect. Camera going towards that. Just want to make sure we hold that for a couple seconds. And then inside of it is a banned book, and if you pick it up, you get banned. I'm going to actually go into the server room here for this one. Make sure I don't have any armor on. And then I go /game mode, spectator, Control-A, Control-C, and then I go and pick it up. I want to make sure I have my hand ready so I actually visually pick it up. It'll just pop into that first hotbar there. So go like this, V, Control-V. Perfect. All right, and that's both of those captured, so I'm going to check them to say I've captured them, but I think that's everything for that thing. So I hit start recording. I can go save and quit to title. Usually I'll name the replay file. This one will be server. Whoops, put the F in there instead of a V. I'll go ahead and go FOV 30 to get like zoomed in real close. It just looks better than having a high FOV for replays because it's like a clip zoomed in. As long as you can say it out loud with a little extra space beginning and end, you've got enough space. You can see the skin has also changed. One of the things to note here is this bit rate. You can pretty safely keep it at 25 megabytes per second. YouTube will take it down to 12 anyways. I usually keep it at 25 because it's a little over double 12, and that seems to be doing pretty well for keeping the upload size small. You can add things to the queue. I don't ever find that adding things to the queue is helpful because it kind of gets in the way of things, where once you add it to the queue and you hit close, when you go to add a new shot, let's say we just add a new shot here, when you hit render camera path, instead of taking you to that render page, it takes you to the queue, and then you have to add the current configuration. It just adds an extra step that you don't want to have to worry about. But theoretically, you can render them all in one go that way. So that might save some time. I haven't tried it yet. I don't really want to try it because it doesn't work with my brain. But you might want to try it. It might work with your brain. So yeah, you just do that over and over again. I usually like to, instead of doing one replay at a time, I'll just do all of the replays at once. I just wanted to show you that process so you can see it. And then there's a lot of room over here as well to put down items and punch at them, which is something I like to do. But yeah, you just kind of split them up into different sets. You can see I have a bunch of here that aren't in any sets. So I'm just going to go through those, make sure everything's got a set, and go from there. So like for example, here we have, it would take, if I tried to mine the world, it would take forever on the Age of Mine. I'll just go ahead and throw that in the underground as well. SMP underground. So yeah, I just kind of go through this, make sure there's not too many different sets. Sometimes what I'll go through is I'll check and see if there's a set that's only one. I will combine it with something else. So you can see this shop here. I'll just go and combine that with a research because we're already going to be there to record that. You can kind of just shorten the number of total replays you've got to do. Oh, and here's actually a great example of why looking forward in the replay can help. So we had that one line where it was, if I tried to mine the world, it would take forever on the Edge of Mine, SMP Underground. You can see it's actually in the regular replay right here. It's kind of crouching on the edge of like digging out an entire world. So that's perfect. Why don't we just go ahead and use that? It's earlier in the video, so people who are watching aren't going to recognize it from like, oh, he was standing there on that. So we can just go ahead and use that for that. So I'm just going to load up that in the third scene. I think it's this one. Turn down the FOV so we can get like this. We're just going to go over the edge like this. So there you go. Jumping ahead in the replay sometimes just to make sure and see if there's any shots can really help as well. So, and I think that's pretty much it for this. You know, splitting it into these different phases of working on the video really helps to keep everything organized, you know, cut down the time that it takes for any particular set of clips. But yeah, you know, you want to try and keep things visually interesting by cutting around to different environments. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there is. There's a lot of like little and annoying things with the replay mod that you'll have to slowly get used to. But yeah, once you get the hang of it, you'll start to really get into a flow of things and find what works for you. So best of luck. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and finish this guy out here.